third question has to do with small businesses. We're going back to Mr. Alves. I got 90 seconds. Taxes and fines have been criticized as just another revenue stream for the city. How would you help out small businesses?
Thank you, Rocco, for that great question. Everywhere I go in the city, small business people are telling me that they're under assault by city administration when it comes to taxes, when it comes to all kinds of fees. I want to make sure that my economic development agency is sensitive to small businesses. They provide the bulk of the jobs in the city. And someone who's an immigrant, I look around the city, a lot of the businesses are immigrants at home. And we need to have an economic development agency that is sensitive in terms of culture and language, that they can go into those places and do the outreach and let them know what the city can help them with in terms of growing their business. The other thing is the fines are outrageous. For example, when you walk into a restaurant, the owner immediately charges and says, "Sal, why am I being fined a couple of $1,000s for some minor violations? Why don't they give me some time to mitigate those violations? And then if I don't address it, then I'm willing to pay the fine." Other municipalities do that. Here in the city, it's automatically, you get fined, and these businesses are operating on small margins. I want to change that. I want to give people an opportunity to mend those violations and
10 seconds.
and to save them thousands and thousands of dollars. And I believe that we should not use our small businesses piggy banks in New York City. And under an Albanese administration, I'm going to make sure we give them room to grow.
Thank you, sir. Second question, Mr. de Blasio, your plan to help small businesses facing fines and taxes by the city.
It's not just that the Bloomberg administration has been unfair to small businesses. It is that there has been a bias against the outer boroughs in the process. I say this as a Brooklynite who has looked carefully at this. I sued the mayor to get the data that proved all 4 outer boroughs were hit with more inspections and more fines proportionally than Manhattan. Immigrant neighborhoods were hit the hardest. This was a revenue-generating plan that was patently unfair, that inhibited job creation. Now, let's be clear, every one of us has to account for ourselves in the last 4 years, what we did vis-a-vis small business. Did we stand up for small business or not? I led the charge to reverse the Bloomberg policies. You need to ask every single one of the people on the stage, where were you when small businesses were under assault? You also have to ask the question, where were you on term limits? Because if we had not had the change in term limits, we would not have had the Bloomberg third term that's been so devastating to small business. I've raised this point in forums before when Speaker Quinn was present. I wish she was here at this point to talk about, but by her decision, which she still defends, to give the mayor a third term against the will of the people, it opened the door for these anti-small business policies to get out of hand. We can reverse this. We can stop the arbitrary enforcement against small business.
10 seconds.
Even better, we can start a publicly sponsored line of credit for small business by taking subsidies away from big individual corporations like Fresh Direct and making credit available to small businesses in our neighborhood so they can actually create jobs.
Thank you, Mr. de Blasio. Mr. Carey.
Yeah, let me take 15 seconds to address Mr. Thompson's rewriting of history about the Bronx parks and the funding, and just say that I think you may have been in a different galaxy when that happened, because in fact we had hundreds of millions of dollars that went into neighborhood parks as a result of these negotiations. Now, about small businesses, I recently had an opportunity to sit with independent supermarket owners and small food store owners and talk about the plight and the difficulty that they face here in New York City. What they said to me is what I've heard over and over when I served as borough president, when I was in the city council, which is that the city uses the small business community as its ATM. That has to stop. It's the same exercise that we engage in where we have used the commercial properties. Any of you who are commercial property owners know that there is a backfilling exercise that happens at the end of every budget year where the Department of Finance says, Mr. Mayor, we have this hole that has to be filled, and then Finance goes and reassesses the value of property. You don't call it a tax, you call it an assessment. You increase the cost of doing business in New York City. It passes on to the tenants and the users. and it becomes prohibitive. Many of these small independent supermarket operators that really have sustained these neighborhoods all across our city are making the tough choice of leaving New York City and taking their middle class taxes, their upper middle class taxes with them, and that's painful for the city.
Thank you, Mr. Carrion. Mr. Katsimatidis, question again, helping out small businesses facing taxes and fines by the city.
Thank you. Of all the candidates, I am the only one that feels those people's pain. I am one of them. I grew up in Harlem. I was a small store owner for many years. Those small stores, those stores that I opened up are still open with the same employees. I've met with restaurant associations. I've met with chambers of commerces. And they realize that I do feel their pain. I'm the same guy that gets $5,000 or $10,000 water bills for no reason at all sometimes. I am the same person that gets $5,000 a week in parking tickets when my trucks try to come from Hunts Point Market. I get all those violations. And I have and when I meet with them, they realize I am their guy because I'm the one that really feels their pain, because I experience it. I have promised them that I will form a business advocate group within the city, that they don't need to hire a lawyer for $1,000 or $2,000 to go fight. That we will fight for them and solve their problems. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Lewis, same question.
Thank you very much. In addition to reducing the ticket blitzes on small businesses that really have nothing to do with public health and safety and everything to do with generating revenue for the city, I think we have to take a look at our overall tax code, particularly with regard to corporate taxes. There are too many subsidies and loopholes that go to big business in this city that make for a much less than a level playing field for smaller businesses and entrepreneurs who are trying to open up their businesses here in New York. A couple of examples. For one, insurance companies today are still exempt from general corporation tax, whereas everybody else pays general corporation tax. Do you pay general corporation tax, Vicki? Everybody does. Why should insurance companies continue to be exempt from that? It's 2013. They're not moving to Hartford. They're staying in New York City. Have them pay their fair share. That's $310 million that we're foregoing every single year. Instead, let's use the bulk of that $310 million and exempt 250,000 small businesses from that very same general corporation tax. What is the effect of doing that? It's thousands of dollars in the pockets of these entrepreneurs who aren't going, I don't think they're just going to take an extra vacation, they're going to pump it right back into their life and livelihood, their small business. And if even only a fraction of these 250,000 business owners who get this tax break wind up hiring an additional person, all of a sudden you've created tens of thousands of jobs in every neighborhood across the city.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Logan, a question, how would you help small businesses?
We all agree small businesses are and have always been the future of the city of New York. It's where jobs are created. And the current administration has all of our small businesses under siege. We've all talked about it. There have been arbitrary enforcement of all the rules and the regulations. The rules and the regulations of the city of New York should be there to regulate behavior, not to generate revenue. Why is it generating the revenue? The budget of the city of New York has grown 56% over the rate of inflation for the last 11 years. Nothing in the city of New York has grown at that level. We're required to have a balanced budget, and the only way the budget is being balanced is on the back of the taxpayers of the city of New York, the bulk of which are homeowners and small business. So our fees, our fines, our assessed values have also gone up 56% over the rate of inflation. It needs to stop. What we can do is get control of the cost and the cost structure of the city government so that we can bring down the rate of growth in all of our fees and all of our fines. It should be there to regulate behavior, not to generate additional revenue. Anything that generates additional revenue and that's called a fine or a fee should be called what it really is. It's a further tax. We also see it in our water bills that have gone up double digit for for the last 7 or 8 years, and they were so proud it only went up 6% this year. Reality is, we need to get the government of the City of New York under control so that our small businesses can grow and create the jobs necessary.
I'm actually the only one here that started a small business in the public interest, and it has grown into a large business. We sweep, as I said, 150 miles of New York City streets and sidewalks every day, and that saves the merchants whose stores that we sweep in front of millions of dollars a year in fines. So we're doing this every day to help small businesses. Now what the city needs to do to help small businesses is get out of the way. We rank 7th out of 14th in the creation of new small businesses, and that's where jobs come from. And the reason why we deter small businesses from being created, all you have to do is look at some of the legislation that comes out of the city council. For example, if you interview somebody who doesn't have a job and you hire somebody who does have a job, the city council has created a pathway for you to be sued for not hiring the unemployed person. They have a bill that says that when you interview somebody to be hired, you can't do a credit check. And the sponsor of that bill, who never ran a business, never hired a person, never had the responsibility of meeting a payroll, says, well, you can look at the resume. I mean, you know, the impracticality of the people who are making the laws, and the mayor, of course, vetoes these laws, but we can't wait until we have somebody from the city council who's mayor. Then what's it going to be like? So we need a business-friendly mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Same question.
Yeah, it has become clear in the last few years that New York City is at war with its small businesses. They have gone out of their way to penalize and to be able to backdoor tax small businesses. And it's not just them, it's all of us. But small businesses, when it comes to fines and penalties and fees, it is astonishing. Continues to go up. I spoke to the small business owner, the restaurant owner, who pointed out that they bought a new refrigerator. The old refrigerator was unplugged and next to it. Someone came in to do an inspection. They opened up the old refrigerator and asked, what is this? They said, we're throwing it out. They opened the old refrigerator up. There was a can inside. And they pointed out, well, the temperature in the refrigerator is too high. I said, yes, it's unplugged. It's the old refrigerator. They got a ticket for that and had to go down and fight the ticket, had to leave their business. That's what's happening these days in the city of New York. We need to stop that. If you look, the mayor is programming in each year the budget that will get passed in the next few weeks. It will have a certain amount for fines and penalties. It's basically working backwards, how much money they need, and they're going out and squeezing the small business owners all across the city of New York, and particularly outside of Manhattan, for those fees. We need to stop that. New York City small business owners will say, just leave us alone, get out of our way. And also, it has been pointed out, the fines and fees and penalties, but the assessments that continue to go up on all of us, and water rates are squeezing us out of the city of New York.
Mr. Thompson, Mr. Weiner.
Thank you. You know, they say that a gaffe is when a politician accidentally tells the truth. Well, Mike Bloomberg said in February, fines are just a replacement of taxes. Fines are a lot better than taxes. And it's his way of explaining how every year they shake hands on the budget deal, and they say, we didn't raise any taxes. And yet if you look at the fine print, 50% increase in franchises, about a doubling of fines built into the budget. Well, if you're one of these agencies and you see they assumed you had a doubling of your fines, what are you going to do? You're going to double your fines. There are some specific things we can do. And here you can find these all on my website, A Keys to the City, a book I wrote about new ideas for New York City. One, a mobile adjudication ban. You write a ticket on Austin Street, you write a ticket on Queens Boulevard, a couple of times a month, a van comes there with an adjudication officer, the person who writes the ticket, right outside the shop, you get it heard, you fight it. If you did the crime, you pay the fine. If not, at least you don't have to take a day off to go downtown. Two, shopnyc.com. And New York City has remarkable resources in our Department of Small Businesses and other places to aggregate information we already have about small businesses. We should have the ability to say, I want to buy shoes and I want to buy them in my neighborhood and not go to Amazon. Here's a link to a shop that's in your neighborhood. Maybe they can't afford to have their own website. 3, make sure the big chains pay their fair share. A lot of these big chains come to New York, they don't provide insurance for their workers. Where do their workers go for health care? Hospital emergency rooms, we get the bill, that's just not fair.